back for episode number 3. I am your host, Isaiah Reyes.
Hello, everyone. Ventura here.
And we are going to get started with news this week. The Honda Accord is getting a facelift.
Yay!
And that's the end of the news. So,
it was a slow week, everybody.
slow week. We have some topics this week that are pretty good. One being, why are us enthusiasts so hung up on hot, fast wagons and no one makes any in the US? You go across, get overseas and everybody has wagons for everything. I mean, from normal subcompact cars all the way up to luxury sedans. I mean, the E-Class wagon is everywhere over there, but we don't get anything.
And here we are discontinuing hatchbacks.
Basically, yeah, because everyone wants a SUV or a CUV, and I don't think anybody understands that those are just tall hatchbacks.
Yeah, tall hatchbacks and tall wagons.
Yeah, that's all it is. I guess because everybody wants the height when they're driving.
Yeah,
no one wants to feel low
I
to
don't
the
know.
ground.
I don't know what it is about that either. Like when I was selling cars, I actually had this guest one time come in, and she was like, "Yeah, I want to look at a 4Runner." I was comparing it to all the other SUVs in its class, and this one had the tallest ride height at such and such inches, and the next closest one was like 6 inches away. And I was like, "You're that adamant about being high off the ground that you actually found the right height of each SUV and started with the one that had the tallest ride height?"
Exactly.
I was just like, "What? Like, what? That makes no sense to me." But I mean, whatever, more power to them. But yeah, I don't. I the conception of being safer the higher up you are is a strange one, because I mean, I think it's technically true, but there's also so many other aspects of the vehicle that then become unsafe. And even then, with the amount of safety technology that goes into these cars, I mean, any vehicle you're going to be in that's made now is just
They're safe.
it's going to be up there, right?
Yeah.
Like
We have such
airbags and
stringent safety laws here. It's
right.
insane. It's what's making the car so big as it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, you look at a mid-size sedan from 10, 15 years ago. I mean, and you're like, wow, this is my subcompact, quote unquote, forte is way bigger than this is. And this was a mid-size in like 2005. And you're just like, whoa, dang.
Right.
And all it is
But
airbags and
crumple
GPS
zones.
this and crumples. Exactly. It's just like, dude.
Yeah, there's so much that makes them safe, and it's just weird that people just for whatever reason want to be high off the ground. I understand their purpose as far as room goes, but like I'm talking like people like single people with no kids and no reason to need all that room, or wanting forerunners and Jeep Grand Cherokees because they're high off the ground. And I'm just
Yeah,
like, why?
I know. It's like you're ruining the fun of having a car. Like, you don't. I mean, I understand. Oh, I want all the space and I want to be able to take everybody everywhere and blase, blase, blase. But I mean, it's like, what happened to the days of like owning a cool TL and riding that around? You know what I'm saying? And now we over
Right.
here, everybody's like, well, no, I got to get a CX5 or what's the RAV4 or I'm gonna go ahead and get. I'm like, no, like, get a car. You don't need that much
Right.
space. Just get a car.
Bro, the RAV4 outsells some entire automakers because of how popular that segment is.
Yeah, it's
Like,
stupid.
I think if I'm not mistaken, the RAV4 outsells all of Mazda's lineup, if I remember correctly,
Jesus.
combined. Yeah, it's some stupid, bro. It was, or I think Volkswagen too. I think it outsells all of Volkswagen's lineups too. It's
This is
nuts.
ridiculous.
Yeah, the only thing that doesn't outsell, or the only thing the RAV4 doesn't outsell, is the F-150, which even then, that's kind of skewed because how many fleet cars are purchased as F-150s.
Well, yeah, but I think even then, I mean, it's like I think it's like
Fair.
every 7 seconds a
The,
F-150 sells.
the number, I guess the number would be closer if you take out fleet sales, but still.
It's like every that's a lot of F-150s. Every 7 seconds
It
is
is
one. That's just
a lot of.
that's a lot of
It's
cars.
also a lot of RAV4s.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I mean, my dream car is definitely a CTSV wagon with a 6 speed. I mean, you can't beat that.
That's
556 horsepower, and I can put the dogs in
and
it.
that's why it's still holding its value like that,
I
because
know they're 60 grand.
the market knows that people want them so bad, that we want them so bad.
Well, I mean, it doesn't help that there is limited production, and they stopped
Mm,
them in
yeah.
13. So it's just like, it's just like, can I please have one that's not $60,000 and you already have 60,000 miles on it?
Right.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And then the ones that are cheaper are always the automatics. I'm just like, I get it, it's cool, but I still like to have the manual.
Right. Yeah. I I think the obsession for wagons comes with the sleeper idea or mindset, of seeing a wagon, especially if you find an older one where they still have like wood paneling doors
Oh yeah.
and things like that, where it's just you associate that with old timer, grown old people getting out of it who just use it to go get
I
groceries and
mean,
go
that
to
was
church
that
on
was the
Sunday.
biggest secret of the '90s, though, because those big Buick Roadmasters and the Caprice Classic wagons, they had all the wood paneling on the side, but they had the same LT1 that was in the C4 Corvette at the time. And it's just like you
Right.
got this 8 passenger wagon behemoth thing that's 5,500 pounds, but it's got a 300 horsepower V8 under the hood.
Right. Right. So I mean, it's. I think that's where it comes from, because you can, just mod it up a bit, and then now you have this monster of a car that can hold 8 people.
Exactly. Exactly. So I mean, I don't know. I'm always like fascinated of finding out the cars that did come in wagons, like the M5 Tourings overseas. We don't get them here, but they are a thing. It exists. Like, could you imagine having the 2008 to 10 M5 with the V10 in it and being in a wagon?
In a
Like
wagon.
I have a V10 wagon. You know what I'm saying? Like the last thing that America had to a wagon recently was the Magnum. I mean, and, the biggest motor used in that was the 6.1 Hemi. I mean, don't get me wrong, that wasn't a bad motor for its time, but geez, man, that was the only wagon we produced at the time.
Is that really the last wagon?
Well, besides the CCSV, yeah, I think that's the last wagon that we got that was like literally a hot car.
Well, I mean, Lincoln didn't have one. No,
No,
huh? Hmm.
no, Ford didn't have a wagon that they were producing.
No, the Flex.
Well, I mean, you could,
Flex, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, the Flex is a wagon, kind of.
Technically.
Yes,
It
technically.
is. No, it's a
It's
wagon. It's
it's
a wagon.
it's really big though. Like it's very SUV-ish because it's so tall,
It's a wagon.
but it is a wagon, and you can get that with the 3.5 EcoBoost and all-wheel
Hmm.
drive. So
The
that's not.
third row in that car is absolutely horrendous, though.
Is it
I don't know.
really?
I don't think. Oh, bro. I don't think they figured out the proportions right in the seating. I There was one time, I was at the time my mom was already living here, was in high school. I might have told you this, and I was coming back from Phoenix to El Paso with my aunt, and they had rented a car and they got a Flex, and they had extra room for me, but I sat in the third row, and I'm talking like my knees were basically to my chest. The way the floor was raised up, like it brought your legs up, and then there was hardly any space. It was the most uncomfortable I've ever been on a road trip, especially between Phoenix and El Paso. And I've taken the Greyhound and limousine buses back and forth, and that was the most I've ever been uncomfortable, was in the third row of the Flex. Every time I got out of the car, it was like I had to learn how to rewalk, bro. I looked like I was like just Bambi fresh out the womb. Like it was so bad, dude. Like how much I couldn't walk. It was horrible. So yeah, I refused to accept that car as a third row. It's cool.
That's fair.
The one that comes with the EcoBoost, cool. I get it. I've seen some. I saw one a long time ago that was sounded amazing, but yeah, no, that I hate the third row in that thing. Nightmares haunt me.
There are some cars that just should not have third rows. Like, I understand what
The
you're trying to do here, but no.
Was it the Sorrento, like a generation or two ago, that had a horrible third row?
It was the generation before mine. Yeah, that was just like
Yeah,
an unusual third row. Like you could just like it was like this much space.
yeah, we had one on a used lot, and I tried to get into it, and I couldn't. I
Yeah.
was like, no, this is dumb.
No, I've sat in the third row of mine, and it's not bad. It's
Hmm.
it's doable for small trips for adults. I mean, it's mainly
Right,
for kids.
right, right.
My thing too is like I said, finding those weird ones. So I know there's this one guy who actually took a Sable wagon, a Mercury Sable wagon, and swapped over the power plant from a show from the same year. So like I think it was like a 80, 89 or a 90. And so
Hmm.
he put the Yamaha motor in it and put the 5 speed in it, and like it was still beige and had the, beige interior. I was like, that's cool to me. That kind of wagon where it's just like I can creep up on you, but you don't know this thing can rev to 7,500 RPM and beat you from a
Wow,
0 to 60.
7,500 RPM in the 90s.
Yeah. Well, the late 80s actually. The current
Wow.
the current show at the time could outrun the Ferrari 308 GT or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was a Ford. That
Good
was Ford
old.
aim at the German like performance cars at the time.
Hmm. America's always trying to get at the other people because they know we're always behind.
This is true. This is true. We're always,
name,
just
name,
a smidge behind the Germans.
name the first time we were ahead of the curve. What? Magna Ride with Chevy? That's probably it.
I think that's our golden
That's our
ticket
halo.
into the motorsports world. The Chevy makes a great Magna ride. Did you know that Ferrari patents that from GM? But I think that's all we've
Cool.
got. Yeah, no,
And the rest of your 100-year automotive industry?
yeah, yeah. And we always just were stuck in our ways with our engines too.
Mm,
Like think about the early '60s and '70s. Like we were just we were
had to be
replacing.
carbureted.
Yeah, but we were like focused on the fact that my engine is 7.4 liters,
It always,
and
I
it,
always
it
find it hilarious when like you see V8 numbers way back when, and that was the most powerful engine ever, and it's like, bro, four bangers make as much now or more.
well, yeah.
Like,
Well, it's like we had the horsepower wars in the '60s and the early '70s, but it took a lot of freaking engine to get there compared to now. I mean, our high horsepower V8s are 6.2 liters. You know what I'm saying? And
or
back then
you
we
got
were over
the
there 454s and the 446 packs. I'm like, damn, that's like over 7 liters of motor, dude. Like, you okay?
right,
How big
right,
is your front clip, dude? How much is the front of that
right,
car
and
weight?
freaking the 5.0 doubles their stuff with 5 liters.
Right. It's like, yeah, it's 425 horsepower. I'm like, we make that with like V6s now.
Right.
It's like technology is so far ahead. It's like, my 3 liter V6 with a turbo strap to it will make 500 horsepower.
Yeah, boosting force induction was definitely one of the best things that ever happened to the automotive industry for sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Americans are still scared of it. So we're having to mask the word turbo with other names like
With the
Ecoboost
EcoBoost.
and Ecotech. And I'm like,
I don't
why
know
can't we just
why.
say it's turbocharged?
Well, I mean, at least they use it. Toyota refuses to.
This is true. Yeah, I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's got a turbo, guys. I'm like,
I mean, props to Toyota to still getting, great gas mileage out of a bigger displacement four bangers to compete with the market and still the same horse or relative horsepower numbers too. So I mean, kudos to that part. I guess that makes sense. But yeah, they refuse to. There's not
yeah,
a single car in the lineup that's not a different automaker's build that is turboed.
this is true. But they ran their turbo deal in the '90s, so I mean, it's not like they're inexperienced. They're just kind of over it, I guess. They can build engines with the technology that they have that doesn't need the,
That's
I
fair.
guess, yeah, the it doesn't have the use for it.
That that
But
2.5 that's in the Camry, I really enjoy that power plant.
yeah, that was a really potent power plant, and it was kind of. strong in its class, and then the K5 came around. I don't know if you know this.
Of course.
Recently the K5 just blew everybody out of the water at 15.5, like in the mid range class at 15.5 seconds in the quarter mile with the
Nice.
1.6 T.
Nice.
With all that car. Yeah. So I'm like, that's actually not a bad deal there. But I don't know. Americans are scared of turbos. My father refuses to get a turbo car.
Really?
I was trying to talk him into the new Sorrento, and he was like, "Ooh, can I get the V6 that you guys have?" And I was like, "No, they took the V6 out and they put the new turbo motor." And he's like, "Oh, I'm not getting a turbo." I'm like, "Dad, I have a turbo. My sister has a turbo." I'm like, "You don't see? We're fine. It's
Right.
not the '70s anymore. They don't burn up and die." I was like,
Right.
they're cooled off. They work real good." And he's just like, "Nah, I'm not getting a turbo." I'm like, "Okay,
Cooled off.
you're right." You know what I'm saying? They're
Pun
not
intended.
right. Right. So I mean, he's I guess I don't know, people are just stuck in their ways. If they find out that it has a turbo on it, they're done.
That people stuck in the ways where they have to have a V6 in their sedan, and I'm just like, what? Like, I had these one people one time for whatever reason wanted a V6 in a Corolla,
Oh my
and I
god.
was like, what? Yeah, I guess they looked at it and saw it was the same size as their old Camry that has a V6, so they thought, oh, maybe it can come with one. But even when I told them the Camrys, the ones that came with the V6 was way out their price point. I mean, if y'all drive the one with the 2.5, I promise you, you're not going to be disappointed. It has more than enough. No, no, I have to have a V6. It's just there's not enough pickup for me. Yeah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, bud. Yeah, they were one of those like 10, 15-minute ups and just wasted your day type people.
God, it's okay. You still have the people who go to Ford and they're very skeptical of the EcoBoost cars. They're like, "Oh, I'm not gonna get my truck with a V6. I've got to have a V8 because I got to tow
Oh,
this, that, and the other." And I'm just like, I promise you, this V6 will out tow that 5 liter and get you better gas mileage the whole time. And they're just like,
right,
I don't believe it. I don't see it. I'm like, I promise, just drive one, and I promise you'll change your mind. Most people, that's the thing though, is like I always ask the customers who would come to me and be like, well, is it worth it, or do you think it'll survive? And I'm like, it does just as good as the 5.0s does the same, 150, 200,000 miles, no problem. And they're like, well, I just don't see it. I'm like, well, have you driven one? And that's their thing. No, I've never driven one. I'm too skeptical of it. I'm like, you got to drive one to understand what it is. I mean,
right.
they're just insane. The other topic we were going to talk about is modding out of class. Is it a thing? Do you think it's a thing? I think it can be a thing,
I
depending
think
on
it is a thing.
the build. I mean,
Well, I
if
mean, it
we're
definitely it exists. I just think I think the big caveat to modding out a class is just whether you have the ability, whether that be fiscally or actual manpower to get it done. Because really, what it's going to end up being is either going to be a whole lot of fabricating, depending on how crazy you want to go out of class, or it's gonna cost a whole lot because the parts exist, but they're 10, $15,000 kits and whatnot to get up there. So that's really it exists. It's just whether you're willing and able to do so.
yeah, my to me, and again, that's where it becomes. It depends on what you're building it for, because it's like sometimes you have those people who build those half-mile cars,
Mhm.
top speed cars, and it's just like you could really turn anything into a half-mile car. I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
they have Volvo 240 swap, LS cars, and they've got Fiesta STs with bigger motors in it, and I'm like, what in the world? Like, there's a guy
Right.
right now in the 1.6 forums that I'm in, and he's got a Mini Cooper, like an original Mini Cooper chassis that he's putting a 1.6 turbo Hyundai motor in to go half miling in. So
All
I'm
right.
like, it's just those cars are so crazy, and it's just like, to me, if you're building for that, yeah, all for it. Like, what I'm saying, to me, it's like I don't think you can mod it a
Do
class.
whatever you want.
Right, like you're going for top speed, you know that you're going to need, power and agility and tire, how much tire can you put on the back of it? How can you put the power down? That kind of stuff. So
Right.
I think that one is one of those motorsports where you can't necessarily mod out of class. But if you're going tracking or autocrossing or drifting, there's certain cars to me that it's just like you can't you can get to a certain
Force it to
point,
be
but
something
you're
it's not.
right. Like even though I'm gonna eventually bore out my Kia and get the block done and get a bigger turbo on it and all that stuff, at that point, I don't think I'll be able to track it anymore. It'll go fast in a straight line, and I can cruise it and go have fun with it around town and on the highway. But I wouldn't be able to go take it to an autocross or go take it to the circuit track because it's not going to be able to put the power down, and two, that chassis is just not set up for that to handle 400 plus horsepower and try and take a corner or hit an apex or focus on it because one, it's front wheel drive and it's got a torsion rear beam suspension, so I have crappy rear suspension.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I can get it to I could get it to a decent class at a tracking wise, but I wouldn't be able to go super fast. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, you would have a ceiling before you're out of class, or now you're strictly sticking to one type of sport or
Mm-hmm.
racing, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean,
So
that's definitely
those half miles be getting crazy though. Like I still to this day love that VR12 Golf where he has two VR6s, one in the
yeah.
front and one in the rear. Bro, that's so awesome. Like the amount of fabrication it takes and just dedication to make that possible, and to think of down to how am I going to do a burnout on each set of wheels from each engine, to have that set up in the transmissions or whatever.
Right.
If there's multiple, like that is thorough engineering and fabrication
Right. He
thought
took the
out to the T.
time. I wonder
Oh
how
yeah,
long it took him to build that thing. Good Lord.
yeah. Who knows? But yeah, that's stuff like that is pretty great. And again, you can't. There are no classes in a half mile. You're just there to just get as fast as you can, and
Exactly.
no
Yeah.
matter what you're in, doesn't matter.
Yeah. But I mean, there's just, to me, it's just like sometimes it's just like you got to spend the money to get the better car. You know, like I'm sure there's a point in a Camaro where you just can't track it anymore, like horsepower rise or how much you can put in the suspension and tires and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
There, you may never outclass that vet who's got that extra horsepower on you just because that vet has got the chassis for it and you don't. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
you gotta buy into the next class.
Right. Yeah. On the track, I definitely think there's definitely classes for that. No matter how great I turn my Mustang or any Mustang into, I'm not gonna end up track going up against a Z06 or a 4 GT or something like that. Like, there's no way I'm ever getting to that level. It's just
Right. Yeah. It's just like you can try and keep up, but it's gonna be super hard to make it happen.
right. Props for being there. Really, is though what that just turns into is,
Right, exactly. Like,
hey,
hey,
but
you hung in there, bro.
I appreciate what you're doing with that car right there, but sorry, sorry, you can't be me.
Right,
Like,
exactly. I'm sorry that you can't afford this $350,000 car. Glad you put 80 in your Mustang, though.
right. Props to that, I guess.
Right, exactly. Oh man, I don't know. Thinking about it, it is crazy. Like having to spend that kind of money to get into those kind of cars, like the GT and the P1 and stuff like that. It's like, man, I'm gonna spend $500,000, sometimes $8 million to get something stupid like that.
It's a lot of car, but would I buy one if I had it? Absolutely,
I'm not.
absolutely.
I don't know. I'd have to
I mean,
literally think about that investment. Like, ooh,
maybe just
I'm gonna
one.
write
Like,
this
I
check.
wouldn't buy multiple. Like, just a $1 million car for me, and I'll call it quits just to say I did it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's
All
like
the
I
rest
have
is
I have
your
one.
builds. Yeah. Yeah. If I hit the lotto tomorrow, just one. All the rest of my cars in my garage are regular regular stuff that I'm modding the hell out of.
This is true. Yeah, this is definitely true. Um, my thing is, if I ever hit the lottery, I'm buying a car for every day of the week.
Of
Like
course you are.
I'm be that person. It's just like Monday's gonna be this, Tuesday's gonna be this. So it's gonna have key tags just ready and lined up.
Oh God.
You know what I'm saying? And then I can swap them out too, because I'll be able to go to the warehouse and swap out cars from there and leave that one there, take that one to the house. And it's just
I was thinking about
nice
that the other
rotation.
day. Actually, I saw a video of some like barnyard like mechanic shop thing, and that just was like a click in my head. Like if I ever won the lotto, I'm building my house how I want it, and just somewhere in the same lot, there goes the barnyard garage setup.
Yeah.
Because like in my head, I was like, how big of a garage can I really fit in a house before it just becomes too much? But then
Right.
that solved that issue. And I was like, there it is. There's my solution. I keep a regular garage for regular garage things in my house, but then I have my
The
barnyard of a
lawnmower.
workshop. Yeah, right, exactly. But then I have my barnyard of a shop in
Got
the
the
backyard.
lifts and the cars and the. Oh yeah.
Right.
No. Yeah. That's a definite. That is a definite.
Second level man cave just because, kill some time there too. Like
Exactly.
you gotta have it
Spend
set up
time. It's fine. Go up
for the
there,
boys.
chill. Exactly. We were also talking a little bit this week about how games like Forza and Gran Turismo, Need for Speed, kind of took influence on uh, us being car guys. It's
It was
crazy.
part of that and part of the modding out of class because we've made some pretty insane random builds on Forza.
I can say that in Forza, I'll make anything lap the Laguna Seca very quickly. That and the ring. I
I
can I
remember,
can build a car. I can that I can do.
oh man, that we spent so many countless hours when we lived together in the apartment on that game. Just way too much time playing Forza
Yes,
6.
yes,
But it
taking
was
the Camaro ZL1 around as fast as we could.
Z28.
It was a Z28. You're right.
Yeah, it was Z28. Um, yeah, that was part of what really helped launch my interest in cars because like you had your Kia at the time already, but I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't really. It was just kind of just starting in my interest, and then just playing the hell out of Forza 6 and tracking stuff day and night in that game. That's what really made me into a more into liking track more than I do drag racing. Just something about going around some turns and really trying to just get at it, cut down every second you possibly can. It's just
Yeah, it's like how can I take
phenomenal.
this corner quicker?
Hmm.
How can I get in brake? How far in do I brake? How much do I put the gas when I come
Right.
out? And it's
There's
just
a
like,
lot more, I guess, driver mod in it, if you will, than there is in drag racing.
oh
Like,
yeah,
because at some point in time, it just really becomes your car versus the other car. You know what I mean? As far as what you
right,
have in it, and very little driver mod, especially now if automatics are the trends to get the quickest quarter mile,
yeah,
it's definitely car for car at that point. But
right,
even if you take an automatic to a track, it's still, did I brake too early? Did I brake too late? Did I turn the wheel in here? Did I give it too much gas? There's just so much more that then goes into it. It's just
right. How did the car understeer? How did it oversteer? You know what I'm saying? How much brake pressure do I apply? You know what I'm saying? It's just it
mhm.
takes you have to be one with the car rather than being just
Do I
letting the
brake
car
through
take
the
you.
turn or do I give it gas through the turn? Like
Right.
it's just so much that goes into it.
It was that Forza definitely started my interest in the whole circuit racing deal. Um, it kind of helped me learn about dynamics of cars too, being as it's a simulator. So it's like it responds like it would if you were driving the car, with the tire specs and all that kind of stuff too. So I mean, it just kind of it took my interest and just made it more in depth. I got deeper into it, started researching more, looking at the tracks that I was racing on the game up in real life, and seeing that, and then started looking into F1 racing and circuit track racing with the touring cars, and how big British touring car racing was in the 90s and the early 2000s, and
Hmm.
how it's like all the Germans, that's where they were basically competing to show who built the best M car, or who had the best AMG, or what I'm saying, like British touring car racing was like stupid crazy. Group B rally racing, where manufacturers went ham on cars. I mean, Audi was making the Audi Quattro of the time in the early 80s, had a 2.5 cylinder making 550 wheel horsepower all-wheel drive, driving through the woods at 120 plus miles an hour. Like, could you imagine driving that in the middle of the night? You can't see jack.
Rally racing, like I love me some adrenaline. I love going fast. I love doing risky shit while I'm driving. Excuse my language. Sorry. I love doing it all. But God, watching rally racers, man, that's a whole new level of danger. I don't think I could handle. I don't think
Your
I can
butt
do.
is puckering the entire
Oh, all the way. Like I honestly, I would lose because I'd just be so cautious that I can't push to the limit that I need to win. Like I just couldn't do it. There's like I'll track all day with the other cars on the track, and it would be fine because we're in a nice, closed, controlled environment. But I'm
I'm
not
not in the
doing it in
middle of
the
the woods,
woods
dude.
at night.
Right.
Like no, no,
It's
thank
just,
you.
it's crazy, man. I mean, and to think like Group B, I mean, okay, so you had the Audi Quattro, you had the Lancia Delta 037. That thing was a rear-wheel drive, mid-engine, turbo, and supercharged car.
Hatch.
It was mid-engined. It wasn't really a hatch.
Oh, okay.
It was,
That was the engine compartment.
well, yeah. I mean, the Lancia was kind of a, it was a patched together car. I heard they were super dangerous. Like it's just, that's a whole other story. But I mean, you had that, just crazy cars. Ford came out with the RS200. That thing was doing crazy. I mean, it's just, all those cars were insane. But the more I looked into it, the more motorsports that I got into, it's just like all of that really branched from Forza. You know, it turned me from more of, from only, because I grew up around a bunch of drag racers, so it took me from only straight line to how fast can I get there? You know what I'm saying? How fast can I take this entire
Right.
lap?
I will say this, putting it on the record right now, I am the Nürburgring King for like 4 or 5 years running. As much as Isaiah is gonna roll his eyes and anyone else in our group of friends is gonna roll their eyes,
Yes.
I to this day still have the fastest lap in our Halo car. That was our benchmark car, if you will. So
Yes.
they
That
can
was
eat it.
my job anyway. I just built the cars. They
He
did
did.
all of
That was a great car that he built. That was our benchmark car. But I saw the fastest lap time by a lot too. Like I'm talking, I think I'm like 4 seconds ahead of everyone else. Like
Yeah, because
I am
yeah,
there,
no.
and to this day I can't beat myself. I don't know. I was on steroids that day or something, but
It was a random day you were off at home by yourself
I
too.
was. I remember Yaya came into the room too. My sister came into the room, and I was about halfway through, and I was killing it. I knew I was like, so she was trying to ask me something, and I was like, shh. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, give me 4 more minutes because I was about halfway through. She's like, give me 3, 4 more minutes, and we can talk. Just I need to. I just need you right here. Just I need to be right here.
I'm
And I
focused.
killed it. And I killed it. And
Focused.
I lost my stuff. I was super excited that I beat the time by as much as I did. But
I still don't understand how you did it.
I don't either. I tried. I've tried. I've sat down and like even like got practice runs in and kept it going. And I cannot keep up with that time
Because that
anymore.
time made
That
it pretty high up in the leaderboard on like the
oh, I'm
world
top one
leaderboard for
percent
Forza.
in
Yeah,
that
it's like,
class. In S
it's just
class.
S
S
class.
class? Yeah,
Yeah.
in S class, I am top of 1% with that time. And it's dumb too because all those other times are like with Ferraris and McLarens, and I did it in an all-wheel drive Z28.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I
Naturally
killed it.
aspirated too.
Right.
That car is really all suspension. I don't think I have anything in that motor either.
I don't think you do.
Yeah.
I tried beating it with the vet I made, but I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, no. That was definitely a fun car. Well, we did do a fun thing this week outside of the blogs that'll get released with the podcast. But we did some research. We gave ourselves a budget of 60 grand, and the car had to be 3 years or older. Um, and we were going off of making a track build. So one that we would take to a track day, go do some laps and have fun with, and just kind of store in the garage. So, want to go first?
You can go first.
Um, I actually found a wonderfully pristine, well taken care of and driven 2007 Audi RS4. Not gonna lie, this is one of my like kid dream cars. It was one of my very first cars in my very first Forza game that I had. I had a blue one. They used to race in blue in Forza 3. That was absolutely amazing. So Having one of these in real life would be absolutely amazing. Um, this is the one that's got the 4.2 liter V8, makes 420 horse, and it comes with a 6-speed manual. So I did that. The car's 23.5. Our budget was 60 G's to build the whole car. So I found a supercharger kit from an aftermarket shop that is $7,900. I get an APR stage ECU that was another 700. I got a Corsa exhaust system because you can't go wrong with Corsa and V8s. That was
Ever.
$1,600. I got a set of Bilstein coilovers for 2 G's. The brake kit for this car is very expensive. It's like half the cost of the car. It's 9 grand.
Dumb expensive. That's so dumb.
Just
Like
because,
9 grand
Brembos.
for brakes. I mean, you gotta stop, but God, 9 grand is dumb. That's a
Hey,
whole
man.
car.
No,
That's
yeah,
a
it's,
whole
it's literally
regular
half of the
commuter, a
cost.
very nice, great commuter car.
You could get a
Like,
sports car for that money. You could buy like an older Z4 for that money.
right. Like God, that's just
9 grand.
dumb.
The short shifter kit was $400. The ported throttle body was 1,800. Meth injection kit was another six. And then I went and got some Michelin Sport Cup twos, which were $1,600 for the set. I looked into some valves and valve spring kits. That was 1,200. Upgraded intercooler for the supercharger kit was 1,800. Clutch was 871. And I looked into some Recaro race seats, which are $2,600, and then the cage and harnesses was another 3 grand. So all in all, that's 60 grand. The car is literally what I would want it to be. um, I'd put a ducktail spoiler on it for sure. They have those Audi S4 ducktails that I love. I did opt to keep the stock wheels because those things are beautiful. Um, but yeah, that would be my ideal track build with that car. I mean, if I ever had the money, that was reason being, and I know it's kind of out of the ordinary for me because I'm the guy that preaches Korean is amazing. So me going German route is a little out of character for me. But I just have so much love for the car that um, I really feel like it would be an awesome track car to have just because it's something that I would have loved to have as a kid.
That's fair. I mean, I think something about Audis are just always like when you're young are just so pretty, like, oh, that looks nice. And then you get older and they have the performance to kind of back it up too, and you're like, oh, nice. You know what I mean? It just kind of they just grow on you.
They do. And it's funny because, as an enthusiast, you're like, wow, this is really nice, but it's just a gussied up Volkswagen.
Yeah,
It's like I'm just driving a Jetta with 4 rings and a badge on it.
right. And leather.
Exactly. It has leather. I got keyless entry,
Nice
yo.
leather. Right. What do you think you can actually make that go around the track pretty nice?
Honestly, yes. The Quattro system, of course, will be very wonderful there. Um, I have driven a mini Audis in my lifetime, and I do know that their manuals are really great. Uh, just because they're really tight,
Mm.
they like to they're very slotted. Also, I mean, it's a V8 sedan. I
Fair
mean,
enough.
at that point, like if I'm going full track car with it, I'm gonna strip it and get the gauges and all that kind of stuff. But stripping it, I mean, I'm probably gonna put it down, take it down to 3,200 pounds. The car is originally 3,600 pounds. So cornering and acceleration. I mean, the supercharger will help. In the low end power, and it's just it that car altogether. I really feel like would be a just dream on the track.
I can respect that. So I too somehow ended up going Audi. Slightly different route, but I did find a 2012 Audi TT RS. And where I was honestly looking, I wanted to keep it a smaller kind of coupe of some sort. Um, I kind of originally looked at a Hyundai Genesis coupe, but you helped me realize that that was not the move. Um, I didn't want to do a typical like Miata or anything like that. Thought about S2000, but I was like, no, let's be a little different with this. And then an Audi just happened to pop up, or the TT just happened to pop up. And I remember like as a kid, or not even as a kid, as like in high school, like barely graduating high school, I've always had this weird infatuation with the TT. I don't know what it is. Even now, to this day, I'd buy one. I would. If I'm being honest, I would buy a TT.
They're
Couldn't
fun.
tell you why, but I just want one. I just do. I don't know. So yeah, so I decided to go with that. It's a 2012 RS at 28.9. We'll call it 29 because it's 28.966. Um, it's a six-speed manual, so that's fun. It's a 2.5 liter five, yeah, 2.5 liter five-cylinder turbocharged. This one has 64,000 miles on it. Um, and then just kind of going through the build, um, I found this really nice sounding full turbo back exhaust made by Miltech. It sounded pretty great. That was like the first one video I clicked onto and I was sold. So yes, we're going with that. High pressure fuel pumps, ECU tune from APR. My brake replacements altogether are only 3 grand versus your 9. So that is a lot. Granted, I don't think it's Brembo's, which I couldn't find. Well, at least in the quick searching, I was fine. Didn't find Brembo's, so I probably could match your 9 grand if I really tried, but I'm
Right.
not.
No, that's $9,000 of useless money there.
Right. And so yeah, of course, cold air intake because turbos. That's $800. I think that was a full like carbon fiber piping. I think it's probably unnecessary, but it was the first one I saw, so I was like,
Mhm.
whatever. It's not my real money yet.
Right. Exactly.
um, I got a upgraded turbo kit. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was just a bigger turbo. That actually came with the tune. That was 7,500, and then 1,800 bucks for a coinciding intercooler. I am changing the wheels because the wheels on this are not the prettiest in the world. They're just like these weird, large spoke wheels.
They're
They
those
honestly look
Audi
like,
blade things.
yeah, they look like the old RX-8 wheels that I'm not about. So, I'm going HRE wheels. Keeping the same size, I think, or at least trying to, in 19-inch wheels. Wrapping those, I decided to go with the R888Rs tires on that, the Toyo Proxies. Um, and then I did find a nice Magnerized suspension kit. It's about 2,500 bucks for all four corners. Where am I at? Valve spring kit, cams. Valve springs were 500 bucks. Both cams together were 1,800 bucks. Um, And then I'm not gonna lie, I forgot to look up seat harnesses, but after my build was all said and done, I had about 2 grand left. So we'll call it that. Oh, a blow off valve, of course, because turbo noises. And then that was 400 bucks, and then a clutch kit for 1,100 bucks. So, and like I said, and then a cage was in there too for about 3 grand as well. So, and then the extra 2 grand would be for seats and harnesses.
Yeah. I when I started looking for my cars, I actually started with trying to find a GT 500 for this kind of money. But I was like, I'm not gonna spend most of my budget on that car. Like I
On
get
the car.
600, yeah, I'm like I get 662 horsepower, but I'm like, yeah, it's like 45 grand. I'm
You
like,
wouldn't have to touch. You wouldn't have to touch power though. You could have
I know
just
I could go just full suspension and
strictly
call it a day, but I was just like,
right.
do I really want to spend 45 grand on a car? So I was like, nah. So I was like, maybe I can get the lesser and try and do Boss 302s. And then those were only 5 grand cheaper. So I was like, okay, I can't do that either.
Yeah.
So then I tried going Mercedes because I was like, maybe I could get a C55 for that. And I found a couple I looked at. I was like, I don't like that really that great. So then I went Porsche and looked at some. No, I didn't know. I skipped that, scratched that. I actually went Nissan and looked at a couple 300ZXs with twin turbos, but they weren't catching my eye. So then I
I thought
started
you were about
shopping
to say
Porsche.
350Zs. I was like, why?
Well, I mean, there's a whole spec class for 350Zs. There's
That's fair.
so I mean, there's track parts available for that.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I just figured I know both of us going in, we're just gonna try to be unique about it.
Well, yeah,
We
that's
both
true.
got 350Zs or G37s and called it a day. Like
Yeah, well, see, and I stayed away from common stuff too. I was like, I'm not gonna shop Miata. I'm not gonna shop Vet. I didn't shop. I tried to stay away from stuff that's like common at track days. So
Right.
I even thought about an M3, but I was like, no, because everybody wants an E46 M3, and I don't want that either. So then that's when I started shopping Porsche. I looked for a Boxster, tried to find a Boxster S. They didn't have any of that. And I looked for a GTS. They didn't have any that I liked. And then I shopped Cayman, tried to find a Cayman R, but Cayman R's are still 60 grand. So those are
Nice.
out. And then I shopped 911s, but all the 911s that were in the price range that I was looking at were all the late 90s, early 2000s ones, and I don't like those bubbly headlights. And they were all kind of high mileage too, and I was like, I don't really want to do with that either. So
I mean, technically, Cayman R, you're kind of done. You don't have to do anything.
no, I'd probably just turbo
It
it
could be your
just to
build.
be fun.
Yeah.
Right, just 60
Yep.
grand all on the Cayman, done. I was like, I don't have to worry about it. I didn't even think about it. I was like, maybe I could have probably gotten like a mid 2000s Porsche Turbo, a 911 Turbo for that money, for 60 G's. The ones
And
that
then
are
what? Just
they're
suspension?
4-wheel drive and just deal with it.
Oh yeah, probably. You probably could have now.
Yeah, I didn't think about that either.
Oh, you'll get
But
them next
then,
time, champ.
yeah, no, but then I was like, I started shopping Audi, and I was like, ooh, RS4s are nice, and they have that wide body too compared to the normal A4, so you can really tell that it's an RS. It's so pretty.
I feel that.
You can tell that's a childhood dream of mine. Everybody's all looking
Thought
for
about it for a long
Ferraris.
time.
Yeah, everybody wanted Ferraris and Porsches and stuff. I'm like, no, give me the Audi. All right, guys, this wraps up this week's episode. Catch us next week. We will be having a guest, a good friend of ours that we've worked with, so that'll be fun. We'll have another voice on the podcast for you guys to get to know.
Hopefully more news.
Yeah, hopefully more news comes this week. Let's cross our fingers, But yeah, like, subscribe. Definitely go to Apple Podcasts. Give us a 5-star review. That puts us on the map if you like us. More people with more views, the higher this goes. So, of course, outside of that, we'll see you next week. And be sure to look at the vlogs that we're going to post this week too. That's it. We'll see you later, guys.
Have a good week. Stay safe, of course. 2020, man.
Right, 2020 is almost over.
Almost there. Power push, guys.